You've just realized something chilling. You aren't making your own decisions. For months, or maybe years, you felt a strange, fog-like weight in your chest whenever you interact with a specific person. You feel exhausted, yet you can't quite point to a single bad thing they've done. You feel guilty for things you didn't do, and you find yourself apologizing for your own existence. You are being manipulated. But it's not happening the way it does in the movies. There are no dramatic villains twirling mustaches. Instead, there are invisible puppet strings tied to your deepest fears and your highest hopes. Today, on The Inverse Mind, we are going to burn those strings. We're going to deconstruct the dark triad of personality, reveal the 3 pillars of emotional control, and most importantly, I'm going to give you the psychological armor you need to become untouchable. Stay until the end, because I'm going to share the gray rock method, the only technique that works when reasoning with a manipulator is no longer an option. Before we dive deeper into this, let me know in the comments what country you are watching from, because I love to see how people around the world are enjoying our channel. It's incredible to see the global community we are building here. To understand how to deal with manipulative people, we first have to understand why they chose you. This is the inverse perspective that most people ignore. A manipulator doesn't just pick anyone. They are psychological predators who look for porous boundaries. They look for the people who are high in empathy, high in conscientiousness, and low in self-protection. In our previous deep dives, we've seen how being too nice is often a trauma response, a way of trying to stay safe by keeping everyone else happy. But to a manipulator, your kindness is a weakness to be exploited. They aren't looking for a partner, they are looking for a host. This brings us to the first pillar of manipulation, the FOG, fear, obligation, and guilt. Manipulators live in the fog, and they want you to live there too. They use fear of abandonment to keep you close. They use a sense of obligation to make you feel like you owe them your time, your money, or your sanity. And they use guilt as a weapon to make you feel like you are the problem. If you've ever found yourself thinking, maybe I am being too sensitive, or I should have done more, you are currently breathing in that fog. The goal of the manipulator is to make your internal compass spin so fast that you have to rely on them for north. Let's talk about the biology of this. When you are being manipulated, your brain is under constant, low-level stress. Your amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response, is perpetually lit up. This is why you feel so tired after talking to them. You are literally in survival mode. Over time, this chronic stress leads to amygdala hijack, where your rational prefrontal cortex shuts down. You lose the ability to think clearly. You lose the ability to say no. You are being biologically rewired to comply. There are 5 common archetypes of manipulation you need to recognize immediately. The first is the professional victim. This person uses their pain as a hall pass to treat you poorly. If you call them out on their behavior, they bring up their trauma, their bad day, or their difficult childhood. They make it impossible for you to have a boundary because your boundary hurts them. You end up comforting the person who just insulted you. The second is the constant critic. This person doesn't yell. They use helpful suggestions to erode your self-esteem. Are you really going to wear that? Or, I just want you to be the best version of yourself. By keeping you in a state of perpetual self-doubt, they ensure that you never feel confident enough to leave or to stand up for yourself. They become the expert on your life because they've convinced you that you aren't capable of handling it alone. The third is the love bomber. We see this often in the early stages of toxic relationships. They shower you with affection, tell you that you are the only one who understands them, and move at lightning speed. This isn't love. It's an investment. They are creating a debt of gratitude. Later, when they start to mistreat you, your brain looks back at the love bombing phase and says, "But they can be so sweet." You stay, hoping for the return of a person who never truly existed. The fourth is the silent treater. This is a form of emotional abandonment. When you don't do what they want, they simply disappear. They don't answer texts, they give you one-word answers, they walk through the house like you are a ghost. This triggers our primal fear of being cast out of the tribe. It is one of the most effective forms of manipulation because it forces you to be the one to crawl back and apologize, just to end the agonizing silence. Finally, there is the gaslighter. This is the most dangerous of all. They don't just manipulate your emotions, they manipulate your reality. I never said that. You're imagining things. You're crazy. When you lose trust in your own memory and your own senses, the manipulator has won total control. You are no longer an independent human being. You are an extension of their will. So, how do we fight back? Dealing with manipulative people requires a radical shift in your internal architecture. You have to move from a state of reaction to a state of observation. Most victims of manipulation are reactors. When the manipulator pushes a button, you jump. You explain, you defend, you cry, or you get angry. All of these reactions are fuel for the manipulator. They want a reaction because it proves they still have power over you. The first step towards sovereignty is the broken record technique. When a manipulator tries to pull you into a circular argument or make you feel guilty, you pick one neutral sentence and repeat it without emotion. I understand you feel that way, but my decision is final. They will yell, they will cry, they will bring up the past. You repeat, I understand you feel that way, but my decision is final. By refusing to provide new information or emotional reactions, you starve the fire. You become boring. This leads us to the gray rock method. Imagine a gray rock on a beach. It's uninteresting. It has no texture. It doesn't move. When you gray rock, you become as uninteresting as possible to the manipulator. You give short, non-committal answers. Okay. I see. You don't share your secrets, your dreams, or your frustrations. When the manipulator realizes they can no longer get an emotional hit from you, they will eventually move on to a new target. It feels cold, and if you are a high empathy person, it will feel mean. But you have to realize that you are not being mean. You are being safe. The next tool is the physical exit. We often feel an obligation to stay in a conversation until the other person understands. Here is the hard truth. A manipulator will never choose to understand you if it means losing their leverage. You do not need their permission to leave a conversation. You do not need them to agree with your boundary for it to be valid. I'm not going to discuss this while you're yelling. I'm going for a walk. And then, and this is the key, you actually leave. You don't wait for a response. You break the circuit. We also have to talk about the shadow of the victim. Why do we let this happen? Often, it's because we have an unconscious need to be the hero or the savior. We think if we love them enough or explain it clearly enough, they will change. This is a form of arrogance. You cannot change a person who doesn't see a problem with their behavior. By trying to fix the manipulator, you are actually participating in the toxic dance. You have to let go of the need to be their savior. You have to accept that they might always see you as the villain of their story, and you have to be okay with that. Sovereignty means being okay with being the bad guy in someone else's distorted narrative. In our data, we see that videos about social isolation and no true friends perform incredibly well. This is because manipulation often leads to isolation. The manipulator wants to be your only source of information. They will subtly turn you against your friends and family. Your mom doesn't really want you to be happy, or your friends are just jealous of us. This is a classic divide and conquer strategy. To fight this, you must maintain a council of truth. You need at least 2 or 3 people in your life who are outside the manipulator's sphere of influence. People you can go to and say, "Am I crazy?" or "Was that weird?" You need external mirrors to reflect reality back to you when yours is being warped. As we move toward the conclusion, I want you to realize that the most powerful thing you can do is to reclaim your silence. Manipulators hate silence. They fill it with accusations, noise, and drama. When you become comfortable sitting in the quiet with yourself, their power evaporates. You realize that you don't need their validation to exist. You don't need their approval to be quote-unquote good. You are already whole. The strings are snapping. The fog is lifting. For the first time in a long time, you can see the ground beneath your feet. It might feel lonely at first. When you stop being the quote-unquote useful version of yourself that the manipulator wanted, some people will walk away. Let them. The space they leave behind is the only place where your true self can grow. You are not a puppet. You are not a host. You are a sovereign being with the right to your own thoughts, your own time, and your own peace. If you've realized that you've been living in someone else's fog, or if you're ready to start the difficult but necessary work of cutting the strings, subscribe to The Inverse Mind. We are deconstructing the hidden scripts of human behavior and reclaiming our autonomy, one boundary at a time. Tell me in the comments, have you ever dealt with a professional victim or a gaslighter? How did you finally realize what was happening? Let's share our stories and build a council of truth right here. You are not responsible for the broken pieces of other people. You are only responsible for the wholeness of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.